Hello and welcome to the Moms Without Capes podcast. Today on the show, we have Franz Sidney. Welcome to the show, Franz.
Hello and welcome. Welcome everyone to the show, and thank you, Onnie, for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So Franz helps professionals overcome procrastination, overwhelm, anxiety, panic attacks, and emotional blocks in 4 weeks or less. She uses NLP, coaching, rapid transformational therapy, hypnosis, and CBT to help you create the life that you deserve. Today, Franz will be sharing with us all about why we avoid certain tasks and how to stop procrastinating so that we can do what we want to do. So before we dive into that, Franz, why don't you share with us a little bit about your journey and what brought you to the point you are today?
So I can't talk for 10 hours, so I will just cut it really, really short. From my accent, you will know I'm actually Italian. I'm Anglo-Italian. So I was born in Italy. I grew up there, and my parents had a company and they wanted me to be an accountant. So I had to study all the stuff that I really didn't want to study. I had to go to the wrong school and everything, and I got a qualification as an accountant, but I really wanted to be an artist, and it took me years of procrastination to take those steps and say to my parents, no, I really want to go to that school to learn design, to learn illustration. I was 22 before I got started to even have an idea about this. So lots of procrastination there, but then once I learned, it took me another 20 years to get to the point where I am now, because you have a job, you have to pay the bills, so I need something like proper job now. And then when I'm solid with this and I can pay the rent, I can do that. And then I got married and had children. Well, when the children grow up, I'm going to have so much time to do art. So I kept procrastinating. So I am a master procrastinator. And now I turned that around, and I learned how to be, first of all, a herbalist, and then a nutritionist. Then I got really entangled with the mind. Why do we do things? The mind is part of a body. What's inside this brain? And so how does that work, and why do we do things, and why do we damage ourselves so much? And so I started this long journey of learning coaching and NLP first. And then after a year or two, I met Marisa Peer, so rapid transformational therapy, and I've done that. And then I went to Mike Mandel Academy. I studied more hypnosis. So it just keeps adding and adding, but really it's all about the mind and how we can use those mind hacks to really make the mind work for us instead of working against us. So what do? I help people to overcome this with very, very simple tricks that most people say, really? And I say, yeah, really.
Yeah, so you've made it your career to dive into the mind and help transform our lives.
It's really transformational. Yeah, because I get to clear up all this clutter with a coaching, right? And see what is holding it. Is it a trauma? Is it lack of self-belief? Is it, feeling good enough for something? Is it because you're in a toxic relationship, maybe with a narcissist? Very overused word nowadays.
Yes.
Agreed. Yeah. So yeah, that's why.
So as the master procrastinator, we're going to dive into that. Tell us a little bit about why do people procrastinate? Moms especially, like why do we have that tendency to procrastinate?
Well, I know that as well. I'm not saying I'm the best mom in the world, but certainly I know how familiar this is. There could be lots of different reasons why we procrastinate something that we want to do, whatever that is. And so the first thing about procrastination is we're avoiding something painful or a little bit difficult. It's painful, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's painful, it's low, it's excruciating, or it's like uncomfortable. I just don't feel like doing it. I don't feel. We're waiting to feel something. And so the feeling never comes. And actually the feeling comes as you're doing something, not before. Right. Also goes with intimacy as well. Same is for art. You don't have to wait for the feeling, just do it, and then the feeling will come. We are like that. We wait to feel great about it. It's never going to happen, because you're never going to have an empty day. You're always going to have things. And so what happens, we might have a very, very full plate and lots of stuff to do. We might not have energy. And so we procrastinate. I'm too tired. I have so much going on. I have 3 kids in diapers and this and that. I don't have time. Or we might not have a clear vision of what is that we want to happen. So I want to lose weight someday. What do you mean? Do you want to lose 10 kilos? Do you want to
It's
lose
not
10 kilos in 1
specific,
year or in
right.
20 years? You have no idea. So your mind cannot help you, because once we don't know exactly what we want, the reticular activating system cannot help us to find resources. So it just becomes something on the back of our mind saying, oh yeah, I really have to do that. And they're going to do it next week. I'm going to change my terrible job next year. I got a toxic relationship. I'm going to fix it after Christmas, because first I have to take care of this. And so eventually we are in this familiar toxic situation. We're not happy. We are unfulfilled. We're underrepresented. We cannot talk about what we want, and we're running to do everything. And that goes to your point number 3, if you allow me, because what we do is the majority of people are not procrastinators 24 hours a day.
Right.
We're not going to say to the kids,
we pick and
I'm
choose
going to take you to school at 10 in the morning or at 3. No, we don't procrastinate. We're just going to do it, aren't we? So we find all the time to take the husband, pick him up from work, to prepare him lunch. We find the time to take the children to other activities, to baseball practice, to cheerleader practice, to everything. We find the time to prepare gifts and cards for everyone. But then when it comes to us, and I really do some me time today, I really need to switch off because I'm just about to burn out, or there's no time. It's not very important. I can do it tomorrow. And tomorrow never happens because it's not a priority. It will never happen. And that's typical. I'm going to do it next time. It never happens. I was like married for 18 years before I realized, gosh, I never have a day for myself.
Sure. Yeah. We just keep putting it off, thinking that we're gonna feel ready, or we're gonna have that time, and that time never comes.
Yeah, the time has to be created, because otherwise people will put pressure on our resources, and we are gonna say yes because we want to please others, we want to raise a good family, and that's amazing. However, we also exist. So sometimes this procrastination.
You brought up a great point about the excuses. Like, we're great at coming up with excuses of why we can't do certain things.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So the
Very creative.
The children get the trophies. I've done this, I've done roller skating, art competition, and we are like, the children are living our dream. Yeah. They're getting the piano lesson. They're getting the stuff that we couldn't do. And we still want to do it. So we all have a little dream in the drawer, we say in Italian. Il sogno nel cassetto. We think, it's too late for me to start. Actually, it's not.
So is procrastination, can it become a habit?
Yeah, it could be a habit. It could be that we put ourselves always second, and we even health-wise. So I'm going to take care of my bad back eventually. So we're just in the habit always putting ourselves as if we were like the servant in medieval times. It doesn't matter. I'll do it later. So we erase ourselves, and then procrastination is not taking that responsibility.
So can we learn not to procrastinate?
Yes.
If even as a master procrastinator, like, is it possible? Yeah. I know you said we don't procrastinate on everything, but can we learn to actually just do the thing, work through those uncomfortable feelings? Yeah,
I have a 6-step plan, if you're interested, which is the one that I always use with my clients. And so here we go. The first thing you want to do when you realize you're procrastinating, you want to change. So you have to be that threshold that you know that something has to change. You know that it's you, and you know that it has to happen now. Then you're ready. Otherwise, you will keep procrastinating. So let's make sure point number 1 is ticked. So the first thing, you want to exactly identify what exactly are you procrastinating? Is it a weight loss, the degree you wanted, a career, changing partner? What is it? Becoming fit, being able to do a marathon, or doing art, or join a choir. I don't care, but you have to identify exactly what is that you're procrastinating all the time. Even if it's something small, like I haven't cleaned the house for 20 years. I procrastinated. You know, some people have the problem that it goes with depression. So you have to really sit down and say, what is it I'm procrastinating? That I know should happen, but it's not happening, and why? So you write down a long list of things that are not happening, and after you have this list, you should perhaps think about the second point. You want to identify what is your secondary gain of this? What is that you're gaining because you're procrastinating? Is it a sense of being soothed and peaceful? Are you kind of like, I'm not stressed. If I were to do the action, I would be stressed. How are you feeling because you're procrastinating? And how else can you create that feeling? And that could be quite a hidden reason for why we procrastinate that is hidden under
a benefit.
Yes. There are lots of layers of good intentions. So I have all these amazing plans and my real actions that I really need to do it just there, something. For example, one thing that happened in several case studies, not just mine, but you read coaching books, the typical thing that I cannot lose weight. I really cannot lose weight. It's impossible. It doesn't matter which diet I do. I will procrastinate starting again because, and then when you go to hypnosis and you go to find out, it turns out that the lady knows that when she becomes fit and thin and more attractive, she will get the attention, unwanted attention of male that she doesn't want to interact with. And so keeping the weight on is a shelter, it's a shield from this emotional encounter that she doesn't want. And so this procrastination has a reason. It's a protective reason. So
protecting her.
Find out what it is, because we don't want that. And this also is typical in trauma. So procrastination could be a safety valve. If you had trauma, say somebody gave you inappropriate attentions for some reason, and you were slender, have made a comment about your body. You see, nowadays we see a lot of body dysphoria. It's because people make comments about the body. And how we take them in can cause procrastination later in fixing something important. So always look up with curiosity, not self-judgment, not criticizing yourself. I look at what's going on here. Let's have a look, hug yourself and say, what's going on here? So number 3, I always say, look up at what you're missing out because you're procrastinating. Are you missing an immaculate house? Are you missing a nice tan and a relaxed week in Spain? Are you missing the recording with a coach that invited you because you are too, I don't know, XXX to prepare for this? Are you missing moving to a much better job, to a closer city with a better boss, with a higher pay because what's going on there?
Won't be doing it, right? So what are you missing out on?
Sometimes we miss out a lot of stuff. And one of the typical examples from my clients is, for many years, I helped everyone else to be fit, but I was the one that was unfit. And now I have pains. I can't stand up, I can't sit, I can't do exercise. I'm always at the doctor's, I'm on painkillers, I'm tired. And I'm to the point of no return because I procrastinated to the point of this is impossibly painful. I have to do something. And then I add fibromyalgia and lots of stuff, which is very, very emotional. So you really want to start thinking, wow, am I really loving myself when I just get all these cakes and pizzas and whatever? I love cakes or pizza, but it's like, what am I shutting up in my mind? What is the message that is coming to me that I'm like, oh, I want this message, or I hate this message, whatever our mind is saying. So listen to the chatter, because that could be a really big indicator of what's really going on and why you are there. And that's why you can go now to number 4. So you can work this out on your own. You're smart, you sit down there and you go, I know what's going on. I'm going to do that. Brilliant. I mean, but then the world is full of procrastinators. So there must be sometimes a case that
must be a little bit more difficult than that.
Sometimes a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a doctor, a friend, a mentor, a coach, a therapist, whichever.
An outside perspective.
A person that is not emotionally involved can help you to really clarify what is that you want to achieve. What are the steps you need to take? Sometimes it's very confusing. When will you take it? How will you do it? What resources do we have? Who's going to help you? And that will generate so much energy that you can then channel into this direction. So it will help you. And the big thing is to remember that what is small that we are procrastinating today can become like a big snowball in 20 years and might not be fixable. You know, there are some things you can do. So, for example, you want to be a doctor, but won't allow you here in England after a certain age to have a degree in medicine and operate as a doctor because you're past, I think it's like 50 years old, I can't remember. Right. You won't be able to be a doctor. So I had a friend who is a paramedic and he always said, oh, I want to be a doctor. But by the time he got around to do it, they said, no, you can't do it because
he passed
although you have this huge knowledge, there is a time limit. And you're like, and he was thinking, I'm going to pay the bills, I'm going to pay the mortgage.
Right. So where procrastination really affected his life. He wasn't able to do what he wanted to do.
It's a really positive procrastination because he had amazing motives and like him, lots of other people. So important to see how big the problem is going to be later. And then the fifth point is, of course, after you decided that's what I want, it's going to happen. I want my job to be, I want to be a digital nomad in Ibiza in 2 years with my whole family. I want my kids to be home educated. I'm just throwing everything that you have that you really wanted to do. What is your dream? Right?
Yeah.
Then you really want to write it down on your calendar. When is this going to happen? When is this?
Put some time limits on it, put some deadlines.
Yes. By which time do I need a visa to go to Spain? By which time do I have to sell the house? By which time I have to do this? And then you have to, a future pacing, see yourself in the end, see yourself in the beginning and work out what has to happen 2 months before that, 4 months before that, a year before that. What has to happen? What has to happen for me to lose 50 kilos in a year? How many kilos a month?
Creating like that roadmap.
So
and making that clear vision. Yeah.
You break it down in small steps. They had to be actionable and it has to be a very smart goal. So if a goal is not smart, possible, with a deadline, realistic and very specific, you will be procrastinating for the rest of your life because your mind has no idea what to do next.
It can't grab onto anything, right? It can't grab onto that final, what you actually want.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, sometimes I go upstairs and say to my daughter, why haven't you done the homework for college? She goes, because I have no idea how to do it. So she's just sitting there or doing something else. I'm like, it's been 5 days, but I don't know what to do. Well, if you had told me, oh no, but I thought I would do it later. And so she will procrastinate. Poor thing, if she hears me, she's going to kill me. But don't we do that? We say, oh, I just can't do it. And we say to people, I can't do that. And we hope that somebody will just come and save us, but they don't do it. They are very busy with their life. So they don't help us. We're like, oh, I have to do it tomorrow. I just don't want to do it.
Right. Yeah. You got to face that uncomfortableness.
And so a lot of stuff.
Or that discomfort. Uncomfortableness is not a word.
It can be, like
face the discomfort.
Empty the closet. I mean, how many hoarders do we have cluttering the house? I mean, I've been divorced like 5.5, 6 years, and I had a huge workshop full of tools and machinery for woodwork, etc. Full of wood shavings, like very high. And so for 6 years, I looked at it thinking, well, he's going to come and pick up his stuff. And he never did. He picked up a few things, but he left this huge mess. And eventually he procrastinated. I procrastinated. Then I said, you know what? I'm just going to go there and start clearing up. And day after day, you see this. And the huge amount of work that is there because we both left it because I'm like, that's his job to do it. And he said, well, I'll do it when I can. And now I have a mountain of stuff to do, which is taking me the whole day to do because we left it thinking, well, I'm not in a rush to go. And now that I'm in a rush to go, it's like it's a mountain. And that's the same for everything. Studying, cleaning, taking care of a person, for example. I had very sad experiences of, oh yeah, we're going to go and see that relative. But when are we going, darling? Oh yeah, maybe not now because I'm busy. And then the relative dies.
Right.
And you have
procrastination. Sure. So that was number 5, right?
There was 5. Let's go to number 6, which is the last one.
Okay.
You have to tell others if appropriate.
Okay.
That
Put
you're
it out
stopping.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's something not appropriate, don't tell. But if it's appropriate, it will help you so much to be accountable. I'm going to stop biting my nails after Christmas. That's the day. Okay. At Christmas, tell everyone next year, I'm going to stop. So then they will come and look at you and say, are they good? And oh, no, I forgot. So they will keep you accountable. If not, get a mentor, an accountability partner. So good. I got a whole podcast episode about that. Because they will push you gently and they'll say, have you done that? And that kind of stings a little bit. So you get more like into the habit, and we are creatures of habit. So once we start taking the action, things start happening. But we have to really get ourselves out of a comfort zone of doing nothing about it. And after the brain says, oh, she's doing something about this, they start, all these neurons we have, and they're wiring together every morning.
Actually changes the brain.
Yeah, because the neuron that are wiring together will fire together. So if every day at 8 a.m. I decided, okay, I'm going to take my time, that's a thing. But I have to add this, self-care. If your procrastination is about not taking care of yourself, that also should go into your calendar.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because a goal not written down is merely a wish. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny because even your steps can apply to self-care as to how to make that a habit, how to change your routines, right? Telling somebody about it. I do a self-care challenge, and that's a big part of it. And I have an accountability post every single day. You need to say it, and you need to put it out there. You need to be clear about what it is that you're going to be doing, but break it down into those small bite-sized pieces, and so that you can take action. Because we'd often do procrastinate with taking care of ourselves. We say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll take care of myself tomorrow, or I'll do the thing tomorrow. I'll, start living my dreams. Or the big one is, in 18 years, I'll take that vacation, or in 18 years, I'll learn how to draw, right? Like when your kids are out of the house or whatever, and that, you're waiting for that feeling, you're making those excuses, and it's done. Stop making the excuses, right?
I do have an amazing experience about a friend who, she was 50. She said with her husband, oh, when we are retired, we're going to do this and that. They have this huge plan. And then he had a heart attack and he died about 50. And she died at 95 something, and she spent 50 years on her own. And the dream of doing all this stuff with her husband went.
Right.
So,
Right.
Do you want me to share my self-care practice then?
That's exactly what I was going to go. I was going to say, speaking of self-care, what is your go-to self-care practice? How do you best restore and recharge?
Yeah. So the number one thing is breathing.
Okay.
You won't believe it, but if you breathe properly, like a square breathing, slowly up and then hold for 4 and then slowly down, that completely changes your entire system, gives you oxygen, gives you calm, and stress is the number one killer. So that's it. First thing, give myself time to breathe. So I do things not very fast sometimes on purpose to actually enjoy the moment. So that's my self-care. But also I really like, that's my number one thing, drawing. I just love drawing. So as soon as I can, I am drawing something.
Nice. How about a book that you have read that has either greatly impacted you or has changed your life, or a book that you'd like to recommend to the listeners?
Yes. So reading is one of the big things. And I have so many books, all sorts of topics, holistic psychology, art. But one that really, really, really helped me is John Seymour, the new complete book of self-sufficiency. Okay. Self-sufficiency. And this book, it's homesteading, very heavy book. He passed away couple of years ago, this guy. He's amazing. And then it's all about how to make beer, how to, how to cure bacon, how to grow everything, how to fumigate stuff, how to prepare the land, and how to cook from scratch, how to make your own soap. I had a book like that. It was like the Homesteader's Bible or something. It was this big brown
like it looked like it was made out of like just brown paper on each side,
Yeah.
very sustainable, but like, and it was
Right.
this huge book and it had all of those kinds of things.
Brown paper.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that's the whole thing, how to make the bread, all the thing. And I'm very much into self-sufficiency.
Mhm.
And that's one of the books that I go back to over and over, because I always thought it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank, how smart you are, but if you cannot do the basics, like cooking from scratch, grow some food, take care of things in the house, you will never have the peace of mind that comes from knowing you can deal with life.
Right.
And especially nowadays, with all this stuff crumbling around us, we do want to know how to take care of life. And one is to go back to nature.
The basics. Yeah.
The basics, yeah. I actually wrote a book called Back to Basics, which is another and it's all about self-reliance. So
nice. Nice. So Franz, where can our listeners find you?
So of course, my podcast is called Create with Franz. So just Google that. Find me on Facebook, Franz Sidney, Sidney, or franzsidney.com. That's my website. And you can always see a few articles in there where, I just go about the mind hacks we can use to live an amazing life.
Awesome. So all of Franz's information is going to be found in the show notes of today's episode. I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom today.
You are so welcome. It was so fun. Thank you.